Counselor Martinez will lead us this evening in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anita, could you call roll first, please?
Counselor Lorenz.
Here.
Counselor Schlebach.
Here.
Counselor Martinez.
Here.
Mayor Garcia.
Here.
And Counselor Schrader will not be here this evening.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any other discussion? Anita?
Counselor Lorenz.
Aye.
Counselor Schlebach.
Aye.
Counselor Martinez.
Aye.
Mayor Garcia.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is our annual Health Care Week proclamation. I'm going to take a drink of water because this is a long one. Okay. Whereas for over 50 years, community health care centers have provided high-quality, affordable, comprehensive, primary, and preventative health care in our nation's underserved communities, delivering value to and having a significant impact on America's healthcare system. Whereas the country's largest primary care network, health centers, now serve as the health care home for over 25 million Americans in over 10,000 delivery sites across the nation. 1 in every 13 people in the United States gets their care in a community health center. Whereas health centers are a critical element in our health system, serving both rural and urban populations and often providing the only accessible and dependable source of primary care in their communities nationwide, health centers serve 1 in every 6 residents in a rural area. Whereas every day, health centers are developing new approaches to integrating a wide range of services beyond primary care, including oral health, vision, behavioral health, and pharmacy services to meet the needs and challenges of their community. Whereas health centers are locally controlled by patient majority boards, ensuring that the patients of each health center are engaged in their own health care decisions. Whereas health centers are locally owned and operated small businesses that serve as critical economic engines, helping to power local economies by generating billions of dollars in combined economic impact in some of the country's most economically deprived communities. Whereas health centers nationally employ nearly 190,000 people, including physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and certified nurse midwives, whose work as part of multidisciplinary clinical teams designed to treat the whole patient. Whereas the health center model continues to prove an effective means of overcoming barriers to healthcare access, including geography, income, and insurance status, and in doing so improve healthcare outcomes and reduce healthcare system costs. Whereas health centers reduce overall costs of care by managing chronic conditions and keeping patients out of costlier healthcare settings like hospital emergency rooms. Whereas health centers are on the front lines of major healthcare crises that our country faces, including access to care for our nation's veterans, addressing the opioid epidemic, and responding to public health threats like the Zika virus. Whereas National Healthcare Week offers the opportunity to recognize our America's healthcare centers, their dedicated staff, their board members, and all those responsible for their continued success and growth since the first health center opened its doors more than 50 years ago. During this National Healthcare Week, we celebrate the legacy of America's health centers and their vital role in shaping the future of America's healthcare system. Therefore, I, Debbie Garcia, Mayor of Monte Vista, do hereby proclaim August 13th through the 19th, 2017, as National Healthcare Center Week. I encourage all Americans to take part in this week by visiting their local health center and celebrating the important partnership between America's health centers and the community they serve. So, and I have one that I will frame and take over to. Okay. All right, thank you. Next item on our agenda is citizens' comments and special presentation. Do we have someone here that's going to do that? Senate Bill 152. Oh, okay.
Mr. Belknap will
Okay.
be presenting that, Mayor.
We were kind of scoping out the room before, and we're like,
Madam Mayor, Council. Good evening. You can see by my council communication that the issue can be quite lengthy. I have a one-page document I'd like to read you that will summarize the bill, give you a better idea of what we're talking about. Senate Bill 152 was passed into law in 2005 and regulates the provision of television services, telecommunication services, and advanced services, internet access in the excess of 256K up and down by local governments. Furthermore, the bill states that cities and counties shall not maintain, construct, or operate any of these services directly or indirectly by means of authority, public-private partnership, or sale-leaseback arrangement. Before any venture is engaged upon which local government will interact with any of these services, a ballot question shall be posed to electors and approved in the majority. The exemption to the rules of Senate Bill 152 are reserved for local governments where no private provider of said services operates within the boundaries of the local government, or if the local government has submitted a written request to any incumbent provider and the incumbent provider has either not agreed to provide service within 60 days of receipt or has not commenced providing service within 14 months of receipt of the agreed upon request. Moreover, local governments are restricted from providing easements or otherwise giving special treatment to any entities, including itself, in regards to access to public right-of-ways, permitting, reporting, performance bonding, or quality of service. And what that's basically saying is under Senate Bill 152 that was signed into law in 2005, we can't so much as allow a radio antenna from a ISP who wants to come to the town and provide high-speed wireless to the citizens. We can't allow them to use a piece of city property. That's, in a nutshell, that's what it says. It says we can't form any kind of public or private partnership with SLVREC or anyone else to give them access to the ground around us. And this has been debated back and forth with the state telecommunication attorney and has been proven many times over that we absolutely can do nothing. Now, there are some areas where if you were providing services before the law went into effect, you're grandfathered in. Alamosa was lucky enough that its Wi-Fi service provided by the library was prior to the law being signed into action there, and therefore they can provide that service. But otherwise, they could not even have Wi-Fi service, even though it's free. They couldn't have Wi-Fi service in the libraries. But Senate Bill 152 allowed for one major option, and that is we can take it before the voters, we can opt out of the bill, we can take back that authority, give back our rights, and give back control of broadband. It doesn't obligate us to do a particular project, spend any money, anything like that. It merely assesses that we have the right to sign an agreement with an internet service provider to allow them in our right-of-way if we want. It gives us the right to broadcast Wi-Fi within City Hall if we want to open that up to guests. Things of that nature are forbidden under 152. You have an election year and a ballot coming up this year, so there's no additional cost for you to run a ballot question at this time. If you don't do it this year, your next opportunity to do it at no cost would be 2 years from now. Yeah. Have some questions for me about 152?
Just reading the wording, the other night, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but I think there might be a typo there. Right at the end, it says within the city of Alamosa.
It's probably because there's some cut and paste in there.
Okay.
Alamosa is planning to opt out of 152 this year, and so is the county, Alamosa County. And we're hoping that Monte Vista will join us. And that way, if there is a grant program that comes through in the future that says that the city should sign off on a grant to get broadband run through the city, you can't do that under 152. You can do that if you opt out. So this is merely putting it to the voters and allowing them the option to opt out. Once again, there is no intent for the city to suddenly go out and spend money, form an authority, or build its own ISP. You're just protecting the rights to grant others passage through the city. So with that information I have on 152 there, I have a communication before you. We are asking, it's the recommendation of staff to adopt alternative 1 of this communication, authorizing staff to place a referendum on the ballot to opt out of Senate Bill 152 in the November election.
Wishes of council?
I move the council authorizes staff to place the following question on the 2017 ballot. Without increasing taxes unless through future voter approval, shall the city of Monte Vista have the legal ability to provide any and all services currently restricted by Title 29, Article 27, Part 1 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, specifically described as advanced services, high-speed internet telecommunication services, and cable television services as defined by statute, specifically including new and improved bandwidth services based on current or future technologies, including the ability to utilize existing fiber optic or other infrastructure and the ability to construct new fiber optic or other infrastructure either directly by the city of Monte Vista alone or indirectly through contract or partnership with other governmental, private, or corporate, including nonprofit entities, to potential subscribers that may include telecommunications service providers and residential or commercial users within the city of Monte Vista.
We have a motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? Nita?
Councilor Lorenz.
Aye.
Councilor Martinez.
Aye.
Councilor Schlebach.
Aye.
Mayor Garcia.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, council.
Thank you. Now is the time for any citizens' comments. We encourage you to come to the podium so that we can pick you up on our YouTube channel. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and please keep in mind that we cannot take any formal action on a citizen's comment. Is there anybody? Okay, we'll move on to staff reports. We have the city manager's report.
I think there's...
I'm sure we have Madam Mayor.
Oh, nope, sorry. I knew we had to skip over 1, but I skipped over 2. Sorry. Contracts, agreements, and leases. We have the police firearm purchase.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. In front of you this evening, you have a proposal provided by the police department to essentially change out their firearms. Part of the proposal is to go to 9mm instead of 40. The equipment that we're talking about purchasing, the firearms and their magazines, will fit in the existing holsters and duty gear of the officers, so there's no cost of retrofit there. As I said in my memo, I thought we had that particular item resolved, but based on some recent information, this is a need more than a want. So as far as a way to pay for that, in your council packets, I have a potential budget amendments document, and item 6 under that would be modified. We're going to cut that to $5,000. It'd be $6,500, and then that would cover the spread on this. I mean, honestly, this is an incredibly good deal. Paying $150 for a brand new Glock service weapon is even with the discounts you get for the PD, that's less than half of what you pay normally. The discussion that I've had with the PD as well is that we would then create a replacement and program. So in year 4, as you can see from the memo from the chief, they have a 5 to 7 year service life. And some of our pistols are beyond that, for sure. And so then we create a replacement program, so at year 4, we get 5 new ones, and 5 and 7, or whatever the number needs to be. But we'd get that just like in a fleet program of making sure we regularly replace that. As well, we'd save money on ammunition. 40 is kind of spendy, 9's less expensive. And we would be able to take our surplus 40 millimeter, or 40 cal, and we could sell that. I already know we have at least one buyer who would, so that's not an issue. So we'd get some money back there. So it's really a great deal. I applaud the PD for putting that together. And, the chief brought that to me, I think it was Tuesday. And I was like, okay, yeah, we'll get that on there, because there is some carry time between when we actually would be able to get them. So I'm hoping that the council this evening will approve this request for a capital purchase. And I don't know if handguns, based on their individual cost at $150, are really capital, but once again, want to be, make you aware of the expenditure and seek your approval. I don't know if you have any questions for me. I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Would we need a budget amendment for that? Because we already have capital purchase built in. We just put a moratorium on not using it without approval from the council. So I wouldn't technically need a budget amendment, would it?
No, because at this time, I have that potential budget amendment document, and we anticipate bringing that to the council. So none of that has been adopted at this point. So it would not require a change to the budget to authorize this expenditure.
Have you guys checked with Carlton here in Monte Vista to see if he may be able to match that? And
Yeah, the big aspect of this, could he get close to the retail price or a PD price, but not the buyback. Mm-hmm. So the buyback is the big thing. I was really surprised. They're just going to buy back and recondition them and, transfer them over to them. But that's the biggest part of this. The cost savings is that Glock will buy them back. And I don't think that Carlton could go there. He would lose money on that if he sold them even at $200. He would lose. There's not much margin in those. I pretty much know what the regular wholesale is on that. And, yeah.
I was just more meaning like if we could go local and get around the same deal, then, but if he can't, then we get the buyback, then that just makes sense.
We'll probably end up doing the ammunition transactions with him.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions for Forrest? Okay, wishes of council?
I move to authorize the capital purchase of 17 Glock pistols for the sum of $3,538 for the Monte Vista Police Department.
Second.
Any other discussion? Rita?
Counselor Martinez?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Counselor Schleibach?
Aye.
Mayor Garcia?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. You do have financial reports in your packet. Heather couldn't be with us this evening, but if you have any questions, we've gone through them. I don't think there's anything in there that's surprising, but if you have questions, I probably can answer them.
Questions on the phone?
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. That made that easy. So the potential budget amendment is part of my report this evening. This is pretty much what I had discussed with council in general. Obviously, none of this is written in stone yet. If you all have any particular concerns, let me know. But like I said, we are planning on coming with a budget amendment at the first meeting in August. And then with our new budgeting process, we would also do a year-end one in December. And I will say that Heather and I met the other day and so you had the revised, the potential revised budget, and it's looking better than that. Right now, we had $150 $13,000 deficit, and where the numbers sat, having closed out the last month, it looks more like 70. So with these proposed cuts that we'll be bringing to the council, we'll actually be creating some differential there, which will give us a little bit of room. And at the next council meeting, we'll be talking about some issues we have, particularly with public works equipment, that we'd like to, well, we need to address one way or the other. So we'll be bringing you a proposal that will take up some of that, certainly. But we'll talk to you all about that at the next council meeting. I don't know if you had any specific questions tonight or concerns with that proposal, but obviously, if you do, we can make some adjustments.
My only concern is with the Valley 3's utility cost. And just because in the manner to be fair and equitable across all of our own, or the properties that we lease to, I don't know if it's very fair to impose that on just the Valley 3 and nowhere else. And to me, if it's an all or nothing approach, either we don't do it because we don't do it for the golf course or anybody else. You know, I don't know if it's fair to ask that just from the Valley 3.
And Council, I would not disagree with you. And now having some newer numbers to look at, I don't necessarily think that one is that important. But I do think when we go to budget this year, that's a discussion to have about fair and equitable across the board. If we're going to do it here, you know, do we do that across the board? And then it would become part of next year's budget. If the council says, yes, we're going to do that, we can, you know, put those numbers together and put them in the budget. So, yeah, I would agree that one at this point is kind of, not as, I don't feel we're as hard pressed now as we're feeling actually when we drew that up, and that was based on the meeting I had with Heather Tuesday. So I would agree. I think that we need to be fair and equitable with that. So.
Plus, I would agree with Matt. I think we need to allow some time for discussion with those entities as well to kind of let them prepare and discuss amongst their boards. You know, I wouldn't want to just throw that on them in a motion in a council meeting and then find out about it in the paper without some.
I'd agree with that, Madam Mayor, and I'm hoping in our budget process this year that our city clerk will, she's like, oh yeah, that we'll contact all of these entities so that we make sure they're involved in the budget process, because you know what we have seen is then we get the budget done, it's adopted, and then somebody comes in with a request, and you know you all did that with the Connor Animal Shelter, which was fine, but you know, we hadn't planned for that, but we'll have a better budget if we have them involved and say, well, what is your needs going to be? You know, like the seniors that we provide $2,000 a year to, that's really all they've asked us for. And that may be all that they need, but I don't think we ever had that conversation with them. So we do have a number of organizations, the golf course is one of them, where there probably need to be some substantive discussions about where they're going, what their needs are, and then, as we've talked about, what are the needs and what are the wants, and trying to balance those out and fulfilling the most needs. So we will try to bring them into the process this year on the front end so that they have some time to think about it and, you know, react or weigh in.
I would like to be able to see from every entity that the city supports, like a profit loss statement. And then if we need to, look at a sliding scale based upon that profit loss as far as paying utilities, if that is where we're going to go. And maybe we'll just take a look at it. If it's not necessary, then we'll just set it aside, but we have that option if necessary.
We could definitely ask them for that. I mean, in addition, I'd ask them for, you know, do they have any long-term plans or what are their plans for the next year, that kind of thing, so that once we know what their costs are, but also what they're planning on for the next year. And some of them may be very simple, but another place where I worked, we had a very formalized process. I'm not suggesting that, but the city and the county both did essentially what our city does, which is contribute to nonprofits and either provide space or whatever. And they had to come in every year, and we had a joint city-county meeting, and they came in and made their presentations. Probably not going to be that formal, but still, we had a chance to interact, and there the county was contributing a fair amount of money. So then the council and the commissioners, kind of got together and said, okay, well, we'll do 40% of this, and you guys do this. And it was a pretty good process, of course, until the severance tax money dried up, and then it kind of went away mostly. But it still was a good process, and it helped us to prioritize, who to fund, how to fund. They had a lot of privatized, if you will, recreation activities like hockey that the city and the county didn't, we supported, but they were mostly self-funded, so we had a smaller piece of that, and then other ones that really needed more from the city. So we will work on that. So most of my council report, it's pretty short this time, had to do with stuff we've dealt with this evening. But I did want to just read two Facebook posts that we got. One was from the end of June. Wonderful town, clean and wide streets for strolling in the evening, nice for dining, friendly people who plan, and we plan to make this our home. It's like, that's awesome. And then it says, cute, clean, well taken care of town, I would move here. Just a little positive note. And I had a long conversation with a gentleman today, and they have moved here to retire. And so they had a house, and we were talking about, fencing and all that kind of exciting stuff. But, they were very happy to be here, and I really enjoyed the community. So I thought, little positive notes don't hurt. And unless there's any other questions, I think that's really all I have. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So Meryl.
Yep, you're at city attorney report.
Good evening, everyone. How are we? Working on the marijuana ordinance. We had a good meeting at P&Z. I need to get with Matt to find out what happened last night. Forrest kind of gave me an overview. So my goal is to have a close as possible that I can do on my end next week to P&Z. And then our last meeting is the 13th. At least that's what I have on my calendar. So hopefully we'll be able to get all those pieces together. And other than that, we're just working on finalizing the charter cable contract, and then a few things going on with court as usual. So that's my report. Anybody have any questions?
Have you guys been able to outreach to the Pueblo Planning Commission to get like a rubric for what their planning commissioners look at for their new businesses? I know we had talked about that at the last planning commission meeting, that they have a rubric that they use for new marijuana businesses that come into the county. That way that their commissioners have a kind of a method to their madness on how they judge those, and then that way, and one for council as well, just to see what they maybe look for, and then maybe include that with whatever that we need to for the, I don't know if it needs to be in the ordinance per se, but definitely just as an added
As a
piece.
reference or
Yeah.
something.
I'll reach out and get that so that we have a comprehensive package, and hopefully you and I can have a chance to talk afterwards so you can fill me in on some of those other things. So,
Sure.
okay.
So just to clarify a date, the next planning and zoning meeting is August?
I have it on my calendar for August 13. I hope I got that
That's a
right.
Sunday.
Then then I've got to be wrong.
It is.
Just
Oh,
because the last one was really interesting, so I guess.
I think it is this.
Wasn't too,
Would it
No,
be this- no?
it's too far.
And the 16th is the police chief meeting,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, it was the 15th.
And what
It's
time
the
is the
10th.
police chief meeting?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.?
10,
Okay,
yeah,
well-
10th at 6 p.m.
I'm looking at
July.
10th
Yeah.
at 6 p.m.
Madam Mayor, I apologize. I have it for the 10th.
Okay.
Which is, we extended it, gave ourselves a full month, just because I think we're really close to the end, so, yeah, apologies on the wrong date.
No, you're fine.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the chief of police report. You just wanted to go off the memo in the packet? Okay. All right, so any questions or anything that you'd like Sergeant Ortega to take back to?
I'd just like to say thank you for the report. It's very in-depth and very informative. I really appreciated it.
All right, Public Works report.
Good evening. I gotta deviate from my report just a little bit. I have one action item that needs to get done. Unfortunately, it didn't make it in your packet, so I apologize for that. But per your motion on June 15th, all capital purchases must be approved prior to payment authorization. I have a invoice that has been processed through finance, but they can't actually pay it until we get council authorization. It's for 3 samplers and flow meters for our wastewater plant. In 2017 adopted budget, we had put a line item in under capital sewer outlay equipment for $58,000, and that's where that money was supposed to come out of. The original quote for these were actually done in March 6th. Unfortunately, the company placed that order. We ordered in May, but council then did that. So I have an outstanding invoice for $17,291.70 that needs to be authorized to be paid. So if I could get council to make a motion tonight to approve that expenditure and to authorize finance to make payment on that invoice, I would appreciate it.
Make a motion to approve the purchase of flow meters and sampling equipment for wastewater treatment for $17,291.70.
Second.
Any other discussion? Nita?
Counselor Schleba?
Aye.
Counselor Martinez?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Garcia?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, and onto my report, just a couple of highlights for everyone. We're still shorthanded in our streets department. We also, as Forrest alluded to, we have a couple of pieces of equipment down. We have our flatbed truck, and the largest piece is our sweeper, of course, has gone down. Major repair, estimated about $36,000. Forrest and I met the other day, and we've got some things. I have some instructions, some follow-up stuff I need to get done, and then our plan is to bring that forward to you guys at the next council meeting with a plan of what we can do. Other than that, our parks were slowly getting caught up, and the grass is slowly starting to come back green, so things are looking a little bit better. A couple of items that I neglected to put in my report were that we did get some asphalt on the ground. We repaired the water cut in the Lariat area. We also did pretty much a complete blade patch on all of North Henderson. Plus we did a fairly large blade patch right there in front of the one stop off of Euclid. So as of today, I just got the bill in this afternoon, 275 tons of asphalt has gone down, so approximately $23,000 worth of asphalt. So we're continuing that. Starting in August, we're gonna probably move over to 6th and do some repairs on that road and get that up to speed. Plus, and then we'll just kind of break out into some of the more residential streets and get some of the worst areas there. There's been a lot of talk lately on Facebook and some other things that I've seen about our mosquito spraying or the lack thereof. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that. We are scheduled to spray Thursday evenings. We start about 5:30. Unfortunately, the last 3 weeks have been a little less than desirable, so we haven't got a spray in. We did get one last week, but we sprayed Thursday night until the rain came in so hard we had to stop. And then we picked it up again on Friday and finished it up that morning. So we did get a complete spraying of all the town. But we're also looking at possibly changing our sprays. The mornings seem to be a much better time than the evenings. So if we do make that change, we will post notice in the newspaper, on our webpage, and in Facebook. So if we do that, we will make sure we get notice out before we actually make that change. So, and really right now, if we have one more where we miss, I'll just go ahead and make that change. Okay. So we try to do it on Thursdays, just not to really interfere with anybody trying to barbecue on the weekend or anything like that. So, and then really, the biggest thing we're doing right now is Stampede. We've been slowly for the last week kind of working more and more on the Stampede stuff, and next week we're going to dedicate the entire department to nothing but prep for Stampede. We are going to help with the police department this year on the parade. So I don't know if people saw in the newspaper, there was a nice little insert on Stampede, and they had a little article in there about the parade and specifically traffic movements. Our job to help the PD is to try to keep, as the parade moves through, allow people to actually get out and leave when they're ready to leave once the parade is passed, but not in an uncontrolled manner where they actually drive back into the parade as it's going. That creates a safety hazard, of course, so that's our job, and we're gonna try to make sure we do that. So we'll be working very closely with the PD this year and try to make sure that the parade goes as smoothly as possible. So, and with that, I'll open it up for any questions you might have.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Your city clerk's report.
Good evening, council. How are you folks this evening? So there's not a written report. I've been extremely busy with court and updating new liquor license and Stampede and just basic day-to-day stuff. So I wanted to go over a few things with you. Court is going smoothly. Within the last 2 courts, the judge has issued 6 bench warrants for failure to appear, 4 being at $500 and 2 at $1,000. With that being said, he has given me administrative duties that once those defendants are picked up on those warrants, I have the authority to issue a PR bond immediately as soon as I find out that they've been picked up on those warrants. That actually came across to me today. So I've issued a couple of PR bonds today for those bench warrants that came in. He has also given me several other administrative abilities that is going to start taking place. So on the docket from this point on, first appearances will not be seen in court. I have the ability and the authority to just schedule them for either sentencing or for trial days. And that's both for traffic and criminal first appearances. So that is going to minimize a lot of our court days and a lot of the people who show up on court days for that. So hopefully that'll go smoothly, and that procedure will started taking place this week. So hopefully that'll continue to go smoothly, and we'll have less in our courtroom on Tuesdays instead of a madhouse. But and then the other thing on that as well, Judge Powell and I are working on putting together a discovery procedure. I actually went to Alamosa today and met with Holly over there and the girls in Alamosa, and we're working on a procedure for discovery for defendants, because we have a lot of defendants that come in and say, I want a copy of the body cam, or I want to see what's going on in the records, I want to see the judge's notes. So we're working on a procedure to put that into place. So hopefully that will be coming in front of you soon as well. I have met with CPAC and Linda Wires. They are going to be doing a concert for the Potato Fest this year. I don't know if you guys have seen, but they're going to be having Brooke Eden for their concert, and it'll be the 9th. And I have spoken with the community fund, and they're going to host their liquor license for that event. They want to do the whole thing just like Stampede. So I went over with them where the liquor would be allowed, where it wouldn't be allowed. We went over security. I will meet with Eddie on Monday, and we'll make sure that the security for that event is also taken care of. Other than that, it's just daily business. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim, information and technology report.
Mayor, Council, feels like I was just here. You have my written report before you. I'd like to highlight a few items if I may. I wanted to let you know that we have all but one of the NDE wireless locks installed in City Hall now. And that's an interior door where we're awaiting some parts to finish that up. But all the exterior doors are done, so we can now audit who's in the building, who's not in the building. We can control access from the cloud. We can turn on access to a different area for a different employee, all remote. We are now CGIS compliant. We have to maintain exactly who. We've heard a little bit of pushback about who can and can't go into the building without assistance. But that is strictly because of CGIS compliant. We can't have a civilian walking through the building at their leisure. Everybody has to be CGIS or CCIC certified in order to walk through the police station, or they have to be escorted. So, of course, council, you're already fingerprinted and everything else. You can go through the police station anytime you'd like, but those are the type of regulations that access now controls, which is the intended purpose of that. Wanted to also point out that after a year of securing the access to the network here, we finally felt comfortable enough to start setting up VPN access for your people who need to work outside of the building. So your department heads and people who have a bona fide need to be working outside the building can now access network resources. And that was a no-cost item that we were able to do with the existing hardware that we had in place. Want to point out the new clerk computer. We managed to reuse an older computer we had in the building, so that's a no-cost reuse. And we got the city of Alamosa to donate this mount and projector here, and we've tied all that in. You now have a permanent in-place projector. You don't need something set up every meeting, and you now have a training room here. So the police department, other city departments, public works can now come and book this room, if you will, and do their trainings here. Computers already set up and are ready to go, and they have full internet access to that. We took the other pieces that were in council chambers, the old projector that was a carry around, we took an old laptop that we had in the police department, and we created a mobile training device that is now in the old council chambers. So they can also book that room and use that, have internet access, and do their trainings back here as well. We finally got the fiber line into the Rio Grande County Jail. That's been on the books for a long time to get accomplished. We got the city of Alamosa to contribute to the hardware side of that project. So the $1,000 upfront cost is covered by the city of Alamosa. It's now a shared project. Monte Vista is paying $90 a month for the fiber line and has access to both the Rio Grande County Jail and the Alamosa County Jail. So you don't have to transport prisoners for court anymore. And Alamosa has the same arrangement going back and forth as well. Just to keep in tune with the Stampede, IT has turned up the Wi-Fi system and got that configured and running for the Stampede. That's already online and ready to go. That's it for the IT report. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, do you have anything?
I don't have anything.
Matt?
Just planning and zoning's continuing work on the ordinance. The goal would be to have the ordinance as prepared as it can be on the 10th, and then after that, then it will go, since it can't be approved, would be the draft would then go to council that we can review and make any other further adjustments that's needed onto that. And then the goal is so that when the ballot questions come out, we can have the ordinance as well as kind of a easy read document for the citizens available at City Hall. That way they can, if there's questions about how enforcement's gonna go, how it would look like, that information would be available. That way we're trying to be as transparent as possible with what we have. In addition, Rob had looked up in some of the forms that Pueblo was using, and so we're gonna try those out. So we got the formatting down, we're just gonna go over what the language needs to be in the application process for that. In addition, working on getting our rubric for not only the Planning and Zoning Commission, but as well as the council itself. One of the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning would be to combine the liquor license board with the theoretical marijuana licensing board into one conjoined board. It's actually pretty common is what it looks like, to be able to facilitate applications coming in, but then in addition still have a special review use before planning and zoning. That the applicants would have to apply to planning and zoning, get approval from there, and then it would come to council for the final authorization. So that's it.
Thank you. Joe?
I got nothing.
I don't have anything either, so if there's nothing else, we will be adjourned until Thursday, August 3rd at 6 p.m.